Hello, class, and welcome to a discussion of Shakespeare and The Simpsons. It inspired me after I pulled up the Homer Does Macbeth clip. I Googled Shakespeare and The Simpsons, and this article came up from The Artifice, which I will provide a link to. The Bard of Springfield, right? That's Shakespeare's nickname, the Bard. An analysis of four Shakespearean references in The Simpsons. And what I want to do is draw your attention to the one on Hamlet specifically, and notice how this is functioning as a cultural criticism document, right? Remember, you have multiple criticisms to choose from when you're writing about literature, and specifically for essay 4, you're going to pick, in addition to formalism, one other criticism. And again, many of them overlap. But think about the word that comes before the criticism, and that's what you're focusing on. So just as for essay 3, it was what do we learn about blank by analyzing our fictional source? What do we learn about depression by analyzing Hamlet? What do we learn about psychology by analyzing Macbeth? Well, cultural criticism, right? What do you learn about culture by analyzing fiction? So this article, what do we learn about culture, right? Specifically The Simpsons, right? Hamlet and the themes of the play by analyzing both fictional sources, not just Shakespearean literature. So again, key on the adjective that comes before criticism or theory. If you're right, what do we learn about gender roles? What do we learn about psychology? What do we learn about readers' responses? And finally, obviously, what do we learn about culture? So A Star is Burns. Notice the pun, right, on the title, Mr. Burns, right? Obviously, A Star is Born. Those of you who've seen the modern version, it's a remake of original version. But they're referencing that even before the Lady Gaga Bradley Cooper film. Now, for those of you, when we get to Othello, right, you'll notice we're not to act. Well, we might be. We might find ourselves actually using this document, right? Look at that, live learning. Here I am. You might use this document if you wanted to compare and contrast aspects of The Simpsons or any sort of kind of modern day animated series. And you could use this document to show how they take that scene from Othello where Cassio drinks too much and compares it to Barney pondering his alcoholism, right? And notice, now a sensible man, by and by a fool, and presently a beast. That pretty well covers it, right? And that's the line from Othello. And they kind of look at how Barney is dealing with alcohol in a, or I should say Barney's the effects, if you would, of alcohol. They have a similar negative effect on Barney like they do on Cassio in Othello. And for those of you that maybe were writing about addiction in essay 3, again, yet another example, just like the porter in Macbeth, of alcohol having negative effects when not used with critical thinking skills. Boy, do I sound like a hypocrite saying that, because I've definitely enjoyed some beers in my day. But as your critical thinking professor, the reality is we've all seen it or heard about it, and it is something that definitely affects one's thinking. And I can't help but thinking of the line in Othello when Cassio says, "Oh, that men should put an enemy in their mouths to take away their brains." And again, and notice how the notion of turning him into a fool and things of that nature. But they do a really nice job analyzing the scene. The poetry of Shakespeare's words illuminate the drunk's regret, an awareness of what you become when you imbibe too much, a beast and a fool. Obviously the opposite of using critical thinking skills. So let me skip down to the Hamlet one. Right, this one's on dealing with King Lear. This one, Principal Skinner and Romeo and Juliet. And then here we go, the Hamlet one, right? Danes do it melancholy is the banner that hangs above Hamlet's bed in the Simpsons Hamlet. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the Simpsons Hamlet and you can watch it if you'd like. But I really liked the way they presented themes from a cultural standpoint, right? It's a brilliantly satirical retelling of Hamlet, is what they call it, right? It is unsurprising because of how well it is done. Bart takes on the role of Hamlet, whose uncle Claudius, played by Moe, has taken the throne of Denmark from Hamlet's father, Homer. Gertrude becomes Marge, Ophelia becomes Lisa, and many of the other characters find their counterparts in the play. But unlike previous ones where Shakespeare's words have been used to make fun of the characters, or as tools of social satire, here the joke is not only on the characters, but on the text as well. Bart states these old stories can't compare with our modern super writers. Stephen Bochco could kick Shakespeare's ass. Right? Bochco is the most famous as a writer and co-creator of the hit show NYPD Blue. Very good example of cultural criticism. So again, they kind of give you the summary here. The play mirrors the events of Claudius's poisoning. So they have that scene of the play within the play, the mousetrap, and then you have Bart commenting on soliloquies and right, Moe, catch my conscience, what? Right, because that quote, I'll catch the play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. So again, let's read the final analysis together here. In the adaptation of the play, the climax is even more murderous than the source material. Again, it's a very bloody scene, yet the Simpsons take on it, right? It, in some ways, adds comedy to it, right? The deaths keep coming, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here we go. Well, contentious, right? Hamlet is considered by many to be the greatest text ever written. What the Simpsons does is boil down this great text, stripping away the powerful, serious themes of death, uncertainty, and misogyny. In its place are the writers insert their own familiar characters, their version of pointed humorous satire, and their own irreverent tone, showing us that even the most serious literature can be a source of humor. Real quick here, just to kind of what we always like to do if we find ourselves coming across words that we don't know, irreverent. It's kind of having like dislike for what's considered, status quo in some ways, right? Not reverent, manifesting it by irreverence, deficient in veneration or respect. An irreverent act or statement. I like here how they just send us back and forth. So deficient in veneration, so not being respectful in some ways is what they're saying. And last but certainly not least, and you can see I have the words up from the last video. Let's look up contentious, right? Kind of almost aggressively angry in some ways, tending to argument or strife, quarrelsome. So I hope you found this interesting and quite a cultural criticism. And if I may point out, right, themes of death, uncertainty, and misogyny, those are themes that we've been discussing throughout the semester. You could use those, you could further develop those ideas as a cultural criticism of literature, and they also lead themselves to gender criticism as well. And again, these misogynistic attitudes are definitely a possible topic for further exploration in Essay 4. So quite the cultural criticism, and that's what the book tells us, is that a cultural critic would say, it's almost as if we should change English departments. They even say it in the paragraphs to cultural studies departments, as some schools have done, and that a modern day text could be just as, if not more, important than a classic work of literature. So that being said, thanks for watching and listening. I hope this finds you all well, and until next time.